It's Lindley Oz, and I found these two links on Steve Quayle's Giants website. Now, the links to those articles, as well as Steve Quayle's Giants website, will be included in my Before It's News article. As always, the link to my Before It's News article can be found beneath my YouTube video on my YouTube channel in the About section. So be sure and check out that link because there will be more information included in my article, including these pictures and this video. Now, I'm going to show you in this video how ancient Egyptians did indeed come to the United States, and it's not just in the Grand Canyon, but in some other places as well. And I'm going to prove to you that not only did the ancient Egyptians come to the United States of America, but Joseph from the Old Testament in the Bible also came to the United States of America. Now, if you're not familiar with the Joseph I'm referring to, it's Joseph, the one with the coat of many colors. His brothers deceived him and they threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery. He went through a bunch of stuff over in Egypt. He was the slave to Potiphar when Potiphar's wife started hitting on him because she was an adulterous, unfaithful woman. Joseph refused to give in to her and fled from her, and she screamed out and accused that he tried to rape her. Well, he was then thrown into prison for a long time, but later was released, and he was looked to because of his visions and dreams that he had. He was able to interpret dreams, and he was very intelligent. He became one of the kings of Egypt. So he did indeed come to the United States of America. Once again, I'm going to show you in these articles the evidence of that so that you can see for yourself. Right here it says Ancient Egyptians Grand Canyon. It says this Egyptian tunnel city was named Kincaid's Cave for G.E. Kincaid, who first entered the cave when he was working for S.A. Jordan. Now this picture is the entrance to Powell's Cave in the Grand Canyon. This cave was named Powell's Cave because John Wesley Powell discovered it. John Wesley Powell wrote in his report to the government, which he also published in a book, "In this canyon, great numbers of man-made caves are hollowed out. I first walked down a gorge to the left of a cliff and climbed to a bench of the cliff. There was a trail on the cliff bench that was deeply worn into the rock formation. Where the trail crossed some gulches, some steps had been cut. I could see no evidence that the trail had been traveled in a long time. I returned to our camp at 3 p.m., and the men had found even more Egyptian hieroglyphics on the cliff walls near the cave." Now over here it says G.E. Kincaid served in the Marine Corps. After retiring, he worked for S.A. Jordan as an archaeologist. S.A. Jordan was sent to the Grand Canyon by the Smithsonian Institute to investigate the information that was reported by John Wesley Powell. The tunnel is presently on a cliff wall 390 feet above the present flow of the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. Archaeologists estimate the man-made cavern is around 3,000 years old. The man-made cavern is over 500 feet long and has several cross tunnels to large chambers. This was the lowest level in last Egyptian tunnel city they built in the Grand Canyon. Since the time that the Egyptian tunnel city was made, archaeologists estimate the Colorado River has eroded another 300 feet lower. Now, right here, this is a picture of John Wesley Powell, and it says that if you want to find out more information about him, you can go to this link here, Ancient Egyptians in America Discoveries. Smithsonian archaeologists have studied the Egyptian hieroglyphs on the walls to this man-made cave, and they are identical to the hieroglyphs for some of the kings of Egypt. The additional Egyptian writings has more additional information than was previously known about these Egyptian kings. Now, this is very interesting right here. Let me move this up a little bit. It says this is a golden artifact for the Egyptian king named Kayan, and it was found in the Egyptian tunnel city in the Grand Canyon. Let me move this up so you can see it a little bit better for a second. It says the Egyptian shrine was in the first cross tunnel in the tunnel, which was in exactly the same location that the shrines were in the Valley of the Kings. Now, in the Valley of the Kings tunnel, cities where Egyptian kings lived before the kings of ancient Egypt began to build pyramids and above ground cities in Egypt. The archaeological meaning of the power beams radiating to the hieroglyphic symbols for the ancient kings the archaeological meaning of the power beams radiating to the hieroglyphic symbols for the ancient kings hieroglyphic symbols. Now, I don't know if that's supposed to be a heading or what, but it's really messing me up here. It says that it means Cayenne, and it was a powerful king in Egypt. So Cayenne was a very powerful king in Egypt. Now, here's the interesting part. He was recorded as a descendant of Zaphnath, or Joseph, that was the king of Egypt from 1610 to 1580 at Avaris, Egypt, where King Zatnath ruled Egypt from also. All kings and pharaohs had different Egyptian hieroglyphs for symbol identification. Both the symbol and name of Cayenne is on the base of his shrine. The top symbol on the base of his shrine in the left side top of his center hieroglyph is the Hebrew Semitic son of the right hand that meant firstborn son. Then in the center of the base is the hieroglyphic symbol for the Cayenne with his power beams, and he is holding the staff of the Lord in one hand. There is no doubt about the identification for Cayenne, or that he was a descendant of King Zaphnath in Egypt, who was Joseph in the Bible. King Cayenne sat on the throne of his ancestor, King Zaphnath, at Avaris, Egypt also. Now, this isn't the evidence I have about Joseph coming to the United States of America. That I will show you here shortly. But this just shows you how this king was a descendant of Joseph. Now here's a picture of some Egyptian urns that were found in Powell's Cave. They are at the Smithsonian Institute at Washington, D.C. Very Egyptian looking there. And here is a tablet. It's a gold tablet. It was recovered from the Egyptian tunnel city in the Grand Canyon. And it was basically a history book that included names that began with King Zaphnath, or Joseph, coming to Atzland, and the information for his descendant King Cayenne coming to the Grand Canyon. On the left bottom of the artifact is, and you can see right there, the symbol for the second land of Egypt named Memphis by King Zaphnath. So it's the symbol for a second land of Egypt. On the top left is F, which meant family, in the Armenian Semitic language that he spoke. More history for Atzland was on the back side of the gold artifact. So the thing you want to remember that I want to highlight in that article, or for that artifact there and what it stated, was the symbol, which it states the second land of Egypt. Now here's something that's interesting. You can see I have to scroll down, and it's going to talk about the second row here, and it's too faded for me to really see. So you can go back and look. Maybe you can find it when you look at it. It says that this diagram was an important discovery for the Smithsonian archaeologists who were exploring the Palace Tunnel in the Grand Canyon. This is a diagram for Egyptian writing system when ancient Egyptians came to the Grand Canyon. It was a school tablet used for teaching Egyptian children to read and write. Now here's the interesting thing. The animal and bird symbols were used to describe the ranks of the kings on the Egyptian hieroglyphs carved into the cliff walls of the Grand Canyon. It's interesting to note the rectangle box on the top second row from the left is the Hebrew Ark of the Covenant symbol, which we know that they carried the Spirit of God around in the Ark. And then it goes on to say lower in the same row is the box without a bottom, which was the Hebrew son of the right hand symbol, which would be the symbol for Jesus Christ. All right, this is a picture you've probably seen all over the internet, and it is an artifact from Kincaid's tunnel. Even though the many large other smaller images were found in the tunnel in the Grand Canyon. This artifact was an important discovery for the Smithsonian archaeologists. It is an artifact for King Akhenaten and Queen Nefertiti. Their ancestors and children's names are on this artifact. The Egyptian name of Zaphnath or Joseph is one of their ancestors. It is recorded that Akhenaten restored the Semitic religion of Amun in Egypt at Saqqara, Egypt. Akhenaten was the recorded ruler in Egypt from 1353 to 1336. His son Cetaprien was also an Egyptian ruler in the Grand Canyon and was recorded as a king at Saqqara, Egypt also. This Egyptian information means that Egyptian kings came to the Grand Canyon at various times, but also returned to Egypt. When Egyptians came to the Grand Canyon around 1700 BC, they began building tunnel cities in the Vermilion cliff walls into the north rim of the Grand Canyon. And I'm going to supply a video by Brian Forrester. I actually did a post some time ago about the tunnel systems beneath the Giza pyramids, and he just came out with a video where he takes you into those tunnel systems beneath the Giza pyramids. So the Egyptians were very famous for their tunnel systems, for their technology, and so forth. The Egyptians first selected overhangs that had balconies so the kings could walk to the edge of the plateau balconies and look at the farming and mining that was located at lower levels of the Grand Canyon. The Egyptian kings had their Egyptian hieroglyphic symbols on the canyon walls around their tunnel cities and on the Grand Canyon cliff walls. The Keabab Plateau is around 8,000 feet above the present flow of the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. And down here, it says these cliff walls were the top cliff walls that were above the large Keabab Plateau of the Grand Canyon. All the Egyptian temples are on the north side of the Grand Canyon also. And here it talks about the fertile land, how basically it could have fed at least 500,000 people, and the estimated number of the Egyptians in the Grand Canyon were about 50,000 people, so there would have been more than enough to sustain them. Now, this artifact is from Kincaid's tunnel in the Grand Canyon. It's identified as being an artifact for King Aperonat, who sat at Saqqara, Egypt also. In Egypt, King Aperonat was known as the powerful king that ruled foreigners also. Right here is a copper statue in Kincaid's tunnel in the Grand Canyon. It was identified as a shrine for Anubis. It is impossible that he was ever in the Grand Canyon. Anubis was a famous Egyptian embalmer that believed in an afterlife. Now notice also I've talked about their depictions of a body of a man with the head of a beast. So I've discussed how those would have actually been Nephilim or Raphaim beings that were created by the sons of God mating or having sex with the daughters of men. Now here are the Walhalla ruins. These ruins in the Keabab Plateau of the Grand Canyon are being excavated. Because of the plundering of artifacts, even by the Smithsonian archaeologists, FBI agents always attend excavating teams in the Grand Canyon and now at all sites in the United States. Now do remember that most of your national parks in the United States are now owned by UNESCO, which is a division of the United Nations. Now this here is pretty interesting. These are pictures of Hopi Indians who occupy that area, and it says the Grand Canyon National Park was named an official national park in 1919. The National Park Service has a policy of preserving the history of Native American Indians when establishing parks. They lived on the North Keabab rim of the Grand Canyon where the Egyptian pyramids are located, and they knew the names of the Egyptian pyramid temple names that are located under the North Keabab rim of the Grand Canyon. The Hopi Indians have a god named Tawa. He was a man's face that smiles all the time and has a good heart. The Hopi Indians still use a large number of original Egyptian words in their language. So, the interesting thing that you could, ask yourself there would be number one, either these Hopi Indians dwelled alongside with the Egyptians at that time, or maybe they are descendants of the Egyptians who were at the Grand Canyon. This is the original Seth Tanner trail, and it's still a popular tourist trail in the Grand Canyon. Now, the Egyptians mined copper, silver, and gold, and we've seen some of their copper and gold artifacts here in this article. They mined it from the Grand Canyon. There are many ruins of Egyptian metal smelters and furnaces in the Grand Canyon. These metal smelters and furnaces are located on the second plateau of the Grand Canyon, and there are several mining tunnels and Egyptian tunnel cities in the cliff walls of second-level Grand Canyon plateaus. Even though the Iris Temple in the Grand Canyon is now badly eroded, a few of the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs can still be seen on the cliff walls of the temple. The temple also has an obvious entrance, but only a few feet into the temple entrance is closed. The National Park Service will not allow any excavations of the pyramid temples. Now, I didn't know this, and maybe I should have. Maybe most of you do know, but I didn't, because I've never really looked that deeply into the Grand Canyon. But there is a pyramid, and it's right here. You can see right there. It says the Tower of Set, actually, the Cetaprien Pyramid, was named by the Hopi Indians. The Tower of Set was the first pyramid to be built in the Grand Canyon as a burial tomb for King Cetaprien that came to the Grand Canyon. All of the Egyptian hieroglyphs have eroded off the pyramid. The Set Pyramid has a rectangular shape similar to the first pyramids in Egypt. Now over here it says this small gold artifact was found in Kincaid's tunnel, and it's on display at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. The Egyptian legend for Iris, the goddess of power and love. She was the first daughter of Gad, who was the first god of earth in Egypt. Her heart was full of love. The hearts of her love are on the base of the image of her, which you can see right there. Now here's another interesting thing here. It says, Zorster Temple in the Grand Canyon was named by the Hopi Indians. And wait till you hear this. This is pretty interesting. Here's the Egyptian legend for Zorster. Zorster was in Egypt when times were hard and Egypt was becoming a poor nation. But Zoroaster's first name had been Joseph because he had a god that was higher in the heavens than their sun god named Ra that knew what the Pharaoh's dreams meant. Joseph became very popular because he could interpret the dreams of the pharaohs. So the pharaohs loved him, and his dreams always became true. They were accurate. He built a big boat that had wings or sails that would carry many people and found more grain and gold for the Egyptians. When he came back to Egypt in his boat loaded with gold, grain, the pharaoh made him the ruler of Egypt and called him Zaphanat Paneah. And Pharaoh was like a father to King Zaphanat Paneah. And the next article I'm going to show you is going to go into more detail about this, which will prove to you that Joseph came to the United States of America because things became so bad in Egypt, they started a second kingdom right over here in the U.S. So remember that, because I'm going to show you more on that. And I don't want to miss this over here. I'm trying to move this screen. Here we go. It says the Hopi Indians told Grand Canyon Park Rangers that this was the Tower of Ra. Only a few eroded Egyptian hieroglyphs can still be seen on the Tower of Ra. Over here, this is an unfinished Egyptian pyramid. and the tunnel's blocked a few feet inside. Now, I kind of wonder if Joseph ever stayed here when he traveled, because it says the Egyptians built some large entertainment centers in the Grand Canyon. The buildings had wood roofs that are no longer on the buildings. These entertainment centers had large fields for foot races and games and had shower rooms and homes for the different athletic teams. The centers also had large theaters for musical concerts and kitchens to prepare meals for the Egyptian kings, athletes, and musicians. So, being that Joseph traveled to the United States of America, which will become more real to you here shortly when I show you the other information on the other article, it's just interesting to wonder. Now, this is called the Tunnel Complex, and Mr. G.E. Kincaid found it. It was a burial chamber inside of it, and these mummies were placed in the burial chamber walls on large stone blocks. The Egyptians began coming to the Grand Canyon according to the carbon dating of the mummies' bones. The carbon date for the oldest mummies was around 1600 BC, and you can see the mummies right there. And they actually opened up one of the cases that a mummy was in, and I don't know if that's a picture, a painting, or some type of a carving, but the face there looks pretty clear, so I would venture to say it has to be some sort of a carving or drawing, but I could be wrong. And let's see what it says here. It says one of the crypts was open in the Grand Canyon to see if there were mummies in them before they were sent to the Smithsonian Institute storage building. And yes, they did find mummies in them. Now, this article is very long, and I'll probably do a separate video post on this, but for right now, I do want to mention the things about Joseph to give you the actual evidence that he came to the United States of America. And this is pretty interesting. This is actually in Illinois. So now I showed you the Grand Canyon, how the ancient Egyptians were there. But here's one. It's called Burroughs Cave in Illinois. It says, every new discovery has its dangers. In the version of our story, in 1982, Russell Burroughs rediscovered a cave along a branch of the Little Wabash River near his hometown of Olney, Illinois. However, he only looted the Egyptian tomb cave in Illinois. Some of the published information for his artifacts has been proven to be correct, but some identifications for his artifacts may be incorrect. Now, it says this artifact was removed from Burroughs Cave in Illinois by Russell Burroughs. This is the best preserved artifact for the exact face structure of King Zaphnath-Paaneah of Egypt that has ever been discovered. And I just told you how he was Joseph from the Bible. King Zaphnath-Paaneah of Egypt wrote that he found another place for Egyptians to live because Egypt had become overpopulated when he was 36 years old. This date would be around 1744 BC. 3 broken pieces of the same face structure and crown style were found in the ruins at Erebus, Egypt, where he ruled Egypt for 48 years. The Mormons have records for him, including some of his writings, information for his 12 trips to a foreign land, which was in a gold book that was part of the Dead Sea Scrolls discovery, were new records for him. The artifact was identified as an artifact for King Zaphnath of Egypt, who was Joseph in the Bible. The direction of the boat on King Zaphnath's crown is coming to the Hio River of Ophir. Ancient Aztlan or Hio of the Empire of Ophir is now the United States. So an artifact, on Joseph in the Bible, the direction of the boat on his crown shows him coming to the United States. King Zaphnath ruled Egypt from the temple of Ammon at Erebus, Egypt. King Zaphnath recorded 12 trips to Ophir, or the United States, that became his second land of Egypt. Some historians and some archaeologists are aware of this information, but some historians and some archaeologists are unaware of this information. The sun of the right-hand symbol is on the bottom right side of the artifact because we know that Joseph was very loyal to God, and I mean the Almighty One True God, Yahweh. Then the box above the symbol is the Semitic symbol for the Ark of the Covenant, or the Ark of the Covenants they have. This is a strong indication that King Zaphnath, or Joseph, who ruled Egypt for 48 years, ruled Egypt according to the 10 Commandments in the Bible. The sun of the right-hand symbol on the right bottom corner of the artifact is a Semitic symbol. This Semitic symbol has been found on other artifacts in the Middle East countries. This symbol meant the first son of a mother instead of the father. When a father had 2 wives, he may have 2 sons of the right hand. The 3 diamonds are Egyptian symbols for the greatest wealth. There are 3 diamonds on his artifact. This is a strong indication that he was the king at 3 locations. We think the 3rd location was the Grand Canyon. Then on the top is M. The M is for my which was a symbol for his Egypt. I don't know if that's a typo, but you can see right there. I don't know, how to tell you differently. It says there's a symbol M is for my. Okay, I'm just reading it wrong. It says is the symbol M. This symbol is for my, which was a symbol for his Egypt. And then the umbrella shape means the umbrella empire on both lands of Egypt that was established by King Zaphnath from Egypt. King Zaphnath wrote that he found another place for Egyptians to farm and mine when he was 36 years old. This research date would be 1744 BC. And there's an artifact there. That was recovered from Burroughs Cave in Illinois. It's been identified as a tripod that was used to measure the degrees of the stars with. These degrees and measurements are on the top of the artifact. Now, here's an interesting piece that had to do with Joseph. It says, historians and archaeologists have identified this gold artifact from Burroughs Cave. Each Egyptian ruler had a separate hieroglyphic symbol. This is the hieroglyph that King Zaphnath, or Joseph, chose for himself. Shu was the Egyptian name for a crocodile in Egypt at the time. Shu, the crocodile, was the symbol that King Zaphnath chose. This was the first known crocodile hieroglyph symbol for any king in Egypt. This same hieroglyph was found at the Erebus, Egypt ruins for King Zaphnath. King Zaphnath is holding the staff of the Lord. Okay, so then on the bottom right is a dash, which meant number 1. Next above the dash is 1x, this gold artifact. X is the symbol for first or father. Then above the X is the diamond, which meant greatest of wealth. Then above the X is the, and you can see right there, I'm not sure how to say that, symbol, which is for the second land of Egypt. Then above is the elongated W symbol. The W symbol meant a large body of water or the ocean. Then above the W seems to be a landmass with a river in the center of it. King Zaphnath was known to be a wise king in Egypt and knew that Shu, the crocodile symbol, was a more powerful symbol than the bird symbols of the pharaohs of Egypt. So the pharaohs of Egypt always used the bird symbols, but he used a crocodile symbol, which was even more powerful. Maybe he was trying to convey that his God, which is the one true God, was more powerful than any other God that man had created for himself. He knew that he would be worshipped by a very powerful God by the Egyptians that were not of Semitic descent. This very same symbol was found in the ruins of the Temple of Ammon at Erebus, Egypt, which was the location that King Zaphnath was the king of Egypt for 48 years. King Zaphnath was also a writer. His grandson Azrael was the next king of Egypt. Azrael was a writer also. Like King Zaphnath, Azrael was known by another Egyptian in their own language. Azrael was King Mabri Shushi. Mabri Shushi meant son of Shu in their Egyptian language. And who again was Shu? Well, Shu was Zaphnath, who was Joseph from the Bible. So Mabri Shushi meant son of Shu in their Egyptian language. His grandson, Seleucus Mabri, was the next crocodile king of Egypt, and he also was a writer. This is a stone tripod. It's one stone that's on the picture on the right. It's a tripod with it looks like a dash or maybe a plus sign on the top of the tripod, which was the exact location mark for the Cahokia Pyramid City and Cahokia Mountain State Park near Collinsville in southern Illinois. Then the left picture is the back of the stone that has some star degrees and math for figuring star degrees. Now I'm going to leave you with this information. This article is pretty long. I will probably do a second video at some point using this article here. But with the information I provided you that Steve Quayle provided links to from his Giants website, you can see clearly that the Egyptians did come to the United States. And when I say Egyptians, I mean the ancient Egyptians, long before Christopher Columbus or any of that happened. They came to the United States, and not only did they come to the United States, but Joseph of the Old Testament, Joseph with a coat of many colors, traveled over here back and forth. And not only did he travel over here, but he started a new kingdom for the Egyptians over here because of the drought and, the fact that things that they needed were becoming scarce in their land. So please check it out. Once again, the links will be included in my article on Before It's News. The link to my article on Before It's News will be in the About section beneath my video on my YouTube channel. Thank you, and God bless you.